埼玉先生。
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, this is Kazu here with another Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak video. Today we're going to be covering the Qurious Crafting system added by Title Update 1.0. It's going to be using the afflicted materials that you get from anomaly investigations, and we're going to dump those in to augment our armors, get a ton new skills and slots, and we're going to be going over how you can actually augment your armor, what kind of augments you can get from that armor depending on the rarity of it, and of course how you can optimize your afflicted material usage so that you can get the most amount of augmented armors with the least amount of materials. So let's get straight into the video. There's a lot to cover, and we're going to start off by explaining what Qurious Crafting is. So for those of you who aren't familiar, the Qurious Crafting system is an upgrade system for your weapons and armor that's unlocked by completing anomaly investigations. Once you kill the afflicted monsters in those investigations, you'll get an amber essence or different types of amber essence, which can be used to enable augmentation for the armors. Once you enable augmentation, you'll have to consume some afflicted materials, and it'll increase depending on the rarity of the armor. And once you do that, then you can actually start augmenting it, and you're going to consume the amber essences that you get from investigations to roll the augment on the armor, gaining you various increases to stats, slots, and skills. So you can increase and decrease your defense and resistance values. You can also get new slots for the armor. You can upgrade the slots for the armor. And then also you can gain armor skills and lose armor skills. And we'll touch more on that later and actually explain why losing armor skills is a good thing despite it seeming not to be. Okay, so now we're going to go over the Datamined armor augment tables from Detail Nor. So this was provided in a post by AKTKWNG, who showed the spreadsheet as well as listed some of his observations on Detail Nor's Datamined. So basically, he said that every armor piece has a power budget for augment rows from 20 for the lowest rarity pieces to 10 for the highest rarity pieces. So we're going to get into detail on that a little bit later in the future, but every single individual armor augment is going to have a cost, and the positive changes, such as adding armor skills, giving you defensive stats, or giving you new slots, these are going to subtract from the power budget of the armor piece. And then negative changes, which are, reductions to your stats or slots or skills, those are going to give you back points in your power budget. So that's kind of the main thing you need to pay attention to. You can have a max of 7 individual augments at once, both positive and negative. For the armor skills, there's 5 tiers that you can row, and each one has an associated cost from 3 to 15. Now, obviously the best armor skills, which is like Wex, attack boost, critical eye, crit boost, these are all going to be the highest tier. They're going to have the highest power budget cost to get these skills, and that's kind of the reason why the lower rarity pieces are a little bit better, because they have a more flexible power budget for getting the higher tier skills. And then of course the shitty skills, like the random one slot skills, those are going to be the 3 cost skills to row. So another thing to note is that adding a skill has a cost corresponding to the general power level of that skill, but removing a skill is always a cost of 10. So if you have an armor piece that has really valuable skills, such as the high rarity armors have unique skills, an augment could remove that skill, but it's only going to give you 10 power budget back, whereas for the lower rarity armors, it could remove a really shitty useless skill and still give you the cost of 10 power budget back. So it doesn't really matter what skills you are removing, which means that you want to be removing the bad skills and not really the good skills. Again, this is RNG, but that's something to keep in mind. If you want to augment an armor with a bunch of one slot skills you don't really care about, you're increasing your power budget to roll a higher level skill. So that's something to keep in mind. And now let's get straight into the spreadsheet. So I'm going to open that up. We have the max possible Qurio augment. This is as of patch 11.0.1. Again, this was provided by Detail Nor, who data mined the information. So as you can see on our first tab, the armor augment pool, we have here all of the armor sets for master rank. So you can see that the low rank or the low rarity sets like Leather X have 20 power budget, And then we have the high rarity sets like the Gold Raytheon armor that has only 10 power budget. So these are going to have less baseline available budget for you to get upgrades. On the next tab, we have augment pool value, and you can see here based on the augment pool. So the augment pool is the number associated with the rarity of the armor. We're going to have different associated costs for the armor skill. And these costs are going to be what dictates how much upgrades, how much downgrades you can get. You can have a maximum of 7. If you want to roll the skills, these high priority skills, it's going to be 15 for the max rarity skill. So you're going to want to have a lot of power budget. That means that you actually want to have some of the downgrades, such as minus defense, minus resistance. These are going to net you back some of the power budget so that you can roll better stats. And same thing with the skill. If you remove a skill from the armor piece as a downgrade augment, that's going to give you back 10 power budget. So that's pretty big. It's a lot more substantial than all of the defense ones. But now let's take a look at the cost skill tab. So you can see here we have the 5 tiers of armor skills. So this is what you can actually roll on your augments. This is the list. The first tier is going to be the best skills, and the last tier is going to be the worst skills. So this is going to have the costs of 15 of your power budget to get any of these skills, and these are going to have a cost of 3, and then everything else is going to be in between. So basically, all the really huge priority skills, we have crit eye, we have crit boost, wex, attack boost. These are going to be very rare. They have what seems to be a 1.6% chance of occurring at level 1, and they're going to cost 15 of your power budget. So that's pretty rough. You're not going to see these very often, and when you do, you probably should take them. Then we have tier 2. We're going to have pretty useful skills here too, like handicraft, agitator, resentment, coalescence, max might, good luck, chain crit, rapid morph, and artillery. Almost all these skills are really useful, so if you see them, you're likely also going to want to take them depending on what you're losing for those skills. Then we have the medium tier with protective polish, mind's eye, crit element, crit draw, focus. These are all decent skills. Hellfire cloak is a pretty niche one that's actually really good. Wildbug whisperer, great on almost every weapon. Grinder S, also very niche but very, very good. Same with Blade's Cajon, Redirection, Foray, stuff like that. So the first, second, and third tiers are gonna be quite useful. And then we get into the fourth and fifth tier. We have all the status attacks. We have a bunch of really just kind of baseline utility skills. Special ammo boost is almost useless 90% of the time. Punish draw is completely useless. We're gonna have a lot of skills, wall runner, that we don't really ever care about to use. So when you get these, you're more than not often going to reroll them. But yeah, that about covers it for the armor augmentation. So now you're going to have a good idea of what you can actually get with your armor augments. And if you want to know the value of the associated upgrades for defense, resistance, skills, or slots, you can see that from this table. All right, so now that you know about the basics of armor augmentation, we're going to talk about save scumming, which is the most efficient way to save afflicted materials. So to start that, you're going to go to options, then you're going to go to save data and disable the autosave settings. That way, when you do an augment, it's not going to autosave your game file. And once we've done that, we can go to our equipment, the one that we're going to augment. We can start rolling on it. And if we get a series of augments that we're not satisfied with, we can save and quit and then choose not to save, and then go back into our game file, and we're going to have all our materials back and be able to do those augments again. So once you load back into the save file, you can start rolling your augments again. However, these augments are going to be the exact same as you rolled before because they're part of an augmentation pool that does not change. This pool is going to be based on luck, but it is going to be fixed. You can get your character ahead in the augmentation pool so that your rolls are different by touching the weapon augments. We're going to touch a little bit more on that later, but keeping the augmentation pool the same is actually advantageous for us if we want to, let's say, roll augments like 50 times and then see each of the augments. And then if we want a specific augment from those 50 augments, we just have to load our save back and then do X amount of augments up until the skill that we want. So in this case here, we went past a grinder S, I think on our 30th augment row, and I want to go back and actually get that grinder S skill. I wrote about 50 times in total, so we're going to load a save, we're going to load back in, and then we're going to just roll our augment 30 times for the exact skill that we wanted, grinder S, and then we're going to just save and keep it. And so we saved a total of 20 material, even though we got to look at what the other augments would have been. Okay, so now touching back on what I was mentioning earlier, there is a Reddit post by user Dagrix who made a guide on Qurio armor crafting. So in this guide, he talks about how you actually reset your rows or change your rows for armor augmentations. And partly that does deal with the weapon augments. So for those of you who don't know, if you go to the weapon augment screen and enable and disable the weapon augments on your weapons, that actually does change the armor augments that you're going to get. But some people are under the misconception that this is resetting the augmentation pool or the drops from your armor augments, when in reality, that's not the case. So he kind of goes and clarifies that. The first point of his post is that there's no resetting the seed, but you can advance your pointer. So what he means by that is, think of your Qurio RNG as a single infinite timeline. You can't change it in any way, and there's a pointer which marks your current position on it. So, at the start it would be at 0, and then every time you augment your armor piece, it's going to advance linearly, going up and increasing. Now, currently, the only ways to advance this timeline is through armor augmentation, which is obviously the normal way, and then through using your Qurio weapon augments. So if you enable and disable them, it will advance your pointer in varying amounts. So his third point is that the length of the jump when your pointer moves varies, and essentially if you're doing the armor augment, that's going to jump your timeline significantly, but if you do the weapon augment to reset the row, then that's only gonna jump your timeline by a little bit. So essentially what he's saying is that, if you were to roll your augments once, it's gonna go from, let's say, a baseline of 0 to 4. These are arbitrary numbers. Whereas if you were to roll your weapon augment, so you go into your weapon and then you enable and disable any of the augments on it, and then you roll, you're going to get a new augment. But that's because you're hitting the first or second or third roll in the timeline. If you keep doing the weapon augment rows, let's say you do it 4 times, you're going to be in line with the same timeline as before, and you're going to get the exact same row as when you did the armor augment starting from 0. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. But essentially what he's explaining in this post is that you want to stagger when you're doing the weapon augments to reset the augmentation pool rolls, so that you can mix up your timeline and kind of hit every single number on the timeline, as opposed to jumping repeatedly by just doing the regular augment rows. So basically what it means for save scumming is that you want to have obviously a lot of amber essence before you do it. You want to disable autosave, and then you want to be sure that you can reproduce the steps you took from a save point so that you can get rows that you've rowed previously, which you actually do like. So I'm not sure how you're going to do that on Switch. You might just want to take notes. But if you're on PC, you can use any sort of screen recording program. I use OBS to do my screen recording, and I can use that so I know exactly what my steps were when I'm doing my augments. And then you can do a mix of looking at new armor rows and then fiddling with the Qurio weapon augments to introduce small shifts into the timeline and kind of hit all of the numbers on it. Now you can also switch armor piece rarity, but it's cheaper to roll on rarity 8. So keeping the upgrades on the same armor piece is probably more optimal. And right now I have just a ton of amber essence, so I can roll whichever armor pieces that I want. And once you run out of Amber Essence, then of course you can revert save, go back to the previous step, and then start manipulating your timeline again by mixing up the Qurio weapon augments with your regular armor rows. Again, hopefully this is coming through to you guys in a way that's understandable. I know I kind of explained it in a convoluted manner. This post is pretty nuts, and I do recommend that you actually read through it so that you have a better idea of how armor augmentation works. If your timeline is just terrible RNG and bad rolls, then there's not a lot you can do about that. So it's still very RNG dependent. But that being said, using this method, you can either, straightforward advance all of your rows for augmentations, or you can get all of the little itty bitty parts by using the weapon augments to keep checking every single row, make sure that you've explored all the possibilities of your timeline and made the most out of your materials before you actually move on to different augments. Okay, so to give a breakdown of what the article is talking about, we're actually going to do some armor augmentation ourselves, and I'll kind of show you what he means by the timeline and the pointer. But first, we're going to start off with augmenting armor. So today we're going to be augmenting the Ingot Greaves X. This gives attack boost level 2, crit eye level 2 with 2 1 slots. So we don't really want to lose these skills because they're really good. However, if we can get an upgrade for the slots or a decent level 2 or 2 slot skill, then these would be even better than they already are. And as you can see, we actually already have some Ingot Greaves, which I've augmented. So this one is getting a 2 slot and an extra 1 slot, as well as a level of fire attack, and then this one is getting an extra 2 slot, an extra 1 slot, as well as a level of evade extender. So as you can see with the Ingot Greaves X, we actually can get some pretty good augments for it already. I kind of want to keep this one with evade extender and a 2 slot with a 1 slot, so we're gonna just make another piece of armor and start augmenting it as well. For those of you who don't know, you can craft multiple pieces of the same armor if you want to keep the augments. You don't have to worry about losing the augments, just make another piece of the same armor. It might be hard if it's armor pieces that use like mantles or rare monster materials, but for the most part, I would just say make a duplicate of it if you want to keep the rare drop on your armor piece. So enough of that, let's go augment it. We're gonna need 10 materials. And now we're gonna augment it. I'm gonna use Prime Amber Essence. It's a little bit overkill. We should be using Amber Essence Plus, but we have way too much of this, so we need to use it. And boom, right off the bat, we're getting crit boost. So that's pretty good. We're gonna just apply that. And you know what? I forgot to save. So again, make sure that you go to your options, save data, make sure that your autosave is off. We're gonna manually save here so that I don't have to go through the augmentation process every single time. And then we're gonna start off by rolling some augments. So, oops, where's the boots? There it is. So we're gonna just roll one, terrible, roll another, terrible. Well, actually Pierce Up's pretty good, but not good for this set. I want to use this for a Blade Master set, so we want good Blade Master skills. So do pay attention to the actual rows, that way you can recognize if they're repeating or not. But you do want to go through it a little bit quick if you want to roll a lot. And so far, we're not finding anything good. So let's say you want to change your rows, you want to advance the timeline or alter the timeline. We're going to actually return to tug of screen without saving. Then we're going to go into our game. We can go to the Qurious Weapon Crafting and just take off a weapon augment. Now if we augment this, it should be a different row than before. So reload speed and punisher drop, that's new with a 1 slot. If we roll again, we have rapid fire up, slugger recover up. Yep, that's new. So as you can see, we're getting different rolls. Eventually, we're going to start getting the same rolls once the timeline kind of converges. If that makes any sense, you know, if the pointer numbers on your timeline converge, then you're going to eventually get the same rolls that you've seen previous. But we're going to keep rolling these. Ooh, ammo up with a 2 slot, 1 slot. That could be good for a bowgun. Unfortunately, you do lose a level of attack boost, so already I don't want it. But yeah, we're going to keep rolling. And Fortify. I think I saw Fortify before. And Crit Element. Yep. So now, as you can see, we're kind of seeing the same rolls. And we're going to want to go into Curious Weapon Crafting. And mess with it again. And then we're going to see if that makes a difference. Recovery speed. Tremor resist. I don't know if I've seen these yet. I don't think I've seen good luck yet. Rapid morph. That's a pretty good one. Hellfire cloak, sleep attack, defiance. So yeah, at this point, I would want to go to my armor, or not my armor. I want to go to my weapon, and then mess around with it a little bit more. Then we go back to our augment and start rolling it. Hopefully getting some new rolls. I don't think I've seen any of these before. Ooh, wow. Why would I want to lose 2 levels of crit eye? Oh my god. That is a terrible roll, but yeah. Basically, you kind of get the idea of how we can mix up our timeline to adjust our rows on the augmentation pool. We're going to go load back a save again. I'm going to keep trying this. See if we can actually get something decent on these Ingot Greaves. If I could get Rapid Morph for the 2 slot, that would be pretty damn good. So yeah, we're just going to start off by just kind of messing around with the weapon. Okay, and then now we're going to go into the crafting, augment, defiance, rapid fire up, pain crit, that's new. Windproof. Resuscitate with a 1 slot. Okay, so we've seen this before. So that means already our timeline has converged, and we're going to want to start using the weapon crafting. Mess around with it a little. Thunder attack, I think we've seen that already. Stamina surge. Yeah, so as you can tell, we're starting to see a lot of the same rows as we have previously. That's why it's kind of hard to actually like fully save scum the armor augmentation, because you really have to do just mess around with the timeline as he mentioned in the post. Like, yeah, I've seen these already. Another thunder attack. That's so bizarre. So really, you just want to mess around and kind of get a feel for where you might be on your rows. It's definitely going to take a lot of trial and error. Like the polish, that's not bad. But yeah, it doesn't seem like we're getting anything great, so I'm probably going to wrap things up. We'll try one more time. This time we'll really mess around. So I think what we can do is advance our timeline further than where we were previously by going to the weapon crafting. Just kind of... I don't know if we need to exit the menu or not. Maybe we need to keep exiting the menu. And now let's try to do some weapon augments, some armor augments, blast attack. I think that's new. Defense boost, windproof, definitely seen that before. Hunger resistance. Yeah, I have a feeling we're kind of running into the exact same rows as we did previous. Yep. So it didn't work that well. We can actually try maybe messing around with the other weapons. Now we're going to give it a shot. Counter strike, blood resist, item prolonger. Stamina surge. I think I've seen that one before. Yeah, so we're really, we are getting caught in this sort of loop. Oh, that's new, a 3 slot and a 1 slot. Okay. Hellfire Cloak with 3 1 slots, not bad. Ooh, 3 slot and a 1 slot. Ooh, you know, that's not bad, I'll take it. I think I'll take it. So now we can put in whatever 3 slot decoration we want. So basically we just got a free 3 slot, and then we have the 2 slots that's the same as before. So this armor got 1 more skill efficient. It's going to be able to have 5 pretty good skills now. The attack was level 2, crit eye level 2, and then you could have something like crit draw, you could have grinder S, you could have handicraft into the 3 slot and then 2 1 slots. That's going to make it a more flexible and useful armor piece. So hopefully that gives you guys a good idea of how to actually do your armor augmentations. I actually recommend just using the save scumming. I actually just recommend using save scumming so that you can see your augments ahead of time and then take the exact augments that you want. And then if you want to use different armor pieces to get other augments, you know, you can just switch up the rarities so that you have different augmentation pools. Stuff like that. I would recommend more over the save scumming and then doing the weapon crafting. It's a little bit tedious. It does save time because hunting afflicted monsters can, you know, be a little bit time consuming, especially when you can burn through your amber essences so quickly. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Give it a shot. Try it out for yourselves. Hopefully you guys get some good rolls. And yeah, that's going to be it for the video. So like, comment, subscribe if you found the information in this video helpful. If not, then no worries. I don't mind. There's going to be plenty more Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak content in the future to come. And that's going to be it. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.